I will call this meeting to order for the Fire Merit Commission on April 22nd, 2025 at 5 p.m.
And our first item is, I think, just to go ahead and...
The new business?
Yeah.
To review the proposed rules for hiring, promotions, and discipline.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be my lead.
Okay.
I just wanted to let the commission know, we considered not having this meeting because we're just not quite there with our rules yet, but I wanted to go ahead and have the meeting, so this is my fault today. It is. But I wanted to see whether, because I can't really have like serial emails with everybody on them and we talk business via email, because that would be a public meeting and we'd be getting around the open door laws by having a secret public meeting via email. So I really wanted to get everybody together and at least see if there are any questions about what we're trying to accomplish based on what I shared with you. And I'll tell you what I shared with you was my effort to simply outline the existing statutes that tell us what the Merit Commission is supposed to do with regards to the rules and procedures for hiring new candidates, taking their applications and hiring these new employees, how to promote within, and how to discipline. Oh, I didn't know she wasn't in yet.
Oh, so I don't see her. I just emailed her and asked her to go out and come back in.
Great. Let's wait for a minute. I'm sorry. I thought she was here. I should have asked. Is she?
Are you? Oh, there you go.
She might be trying to. Maybe she still has the old link, so she'll have to get the new link.
And I'm trying to see if maybe I can send it to her, just in case she doesn't have it.
Because we updated the link, so it's going to be new. The Zoom meeting was showing a date of yesterday. So Jazz just updated it minutes ago, and so it's going to be a new invite.
For a new link.
No, that's not what I wanted.
One thing to know about Zoom meetings is that they're going to get screwed up somehow. Nine times out of 10 anyway. And it's only during a public meeting when they don't. We do a lot of Zoom and Google Meets otherwise as well, and they work pretty well, but it seems like when you want to use them for a meeting, things often go astray.
One just popped up and says,
Yeah, so when I click on the invite on the calendar, it still shows for me as the 21st.
Okay, she's in now.
Great.
I believe she's in.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Hooray, hello.
Hooray.
Okay, so Nicole, it's my fault. I didn't realize you weren't in the meeting. So we already called the meeting to order. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I was just getting ready to discuss the rules that I shared with everybody a while back. I'm going to repeat what I said a minute ago, so apologize to everybody for having to repeat, but I want to do this for Nicole's benefit. The rules that I shared with you as draft one are simply my attempt to outline what the statute requires for the rules and regulations, the procedures for appointment of members of the fire department, promotion and demotion of members of the fire department, and other disciplinary protocols, disciplinary procedures. And so when you're reading through that, that really is just an outline of the statutes and what they require. I have been working with the fire department on this set of rules and procedures since I shared that draft one with you. We've switched it over to a Google document so that we can all be collaborating on this set of rules and procedures, and I can tell you that we've made quite a few changes. I was going to try and redline them, but we made so many changes that it would just be a lot of redline. And so it's going to be a whole new set of rules and procedures. You're going to see the statutory provisions in there, but it's going to be buried within a lot of other language that basically sets forth the procedures for how the department will do all of its hiring, firing, and disciplining. Hiring, promoting, and disciplining. But Nicole, what I was telling everybody is I wanted to go ahead and keep this meeting today, even though we're not really ready to adopt anything, so that I can see what questions the commission might have, what thoughts the commission might have, how we might proceed with this. I can't just have open email discussions with everybody in the commission, because that would violate open door laws. So I thought we could at least try to have a conversation about what we're trying to do here today with the commission, get a sense of what you think, get your pulse, so I know where to go with this. And I will be sharing the updated version with you all. And I might be having individual conversations with you on the phone, so forgive me if I start pestering you with phone calls. I can have individual conversations with the members of the commission. I just can't do it as a group unless we're in a public meeting. So it makes it challenging for us to get this accomplished. But from what I shared with you all, what questions, concerns, or thoughts might you have at this point, if anything?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Chris, is basically what we've got here, a combination of the state statute and current practice?
It's
State statute.
Predominantly state statute. There's very little of what City of Bloomington Fire Department actually does in here. I did talk with Tanya about the process for hiring, and so there is a little bit of the fire department's language or some of the fire department's procedure for hiring built into that first draft. But since then, we've made a lot more changes to make it reflect truly what they try to accomplish.
But we've got the basics of all the state
That's
statutes.
the framework upon which we're building it all, yes.
And then you have the rest. I don't know if I've got the latest version or not, whichever one I printed.
You have the first version, so no, you do not have the latest version.
All right. Good. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I thought you had
No.
maybe had a question, okay. Well, do you have questions about any of it, or should I go through any of this, or are you comfortable with us just continuing to draft everything to reflect how the department currently operates and propose that at the next meeting as what we would like adopted? You'll see drafts of it before we get there. My intent is in these next 30 days for you to be seeing it as a work in progress. But by the time we get to the meeting in May, we would be in a position to ask for you to adopt the rules. So are we comfortable with, I mean, I really don't know how else to go about this except to call you guys individually and ask questions about or make sure you're not having, how about this? As you're reviewing everything, while you're having questions, reach out to me individually so that we can have those dialogues.
All right. Just so you
Or reach out to the fire department even.
And just so you know, that we're not doing it in a vacuum. The union representative is setting in as we're going through these to make sure that they're on the same page with us, so that we can can get it ironed out on the front end and not have to worry about it on the back end, so that they're aware of, you know, what we're trying to put in these as well. And so it's not just us doing it, Jordan, Canada, and the union representatives sitting in there as well to help us get these things put together, so.
Are all these things pretty standard across most?
Pretty
Big,
standard across
big
the board.
fire departments.
Yeah, mostly what we have been doing is kind of what the state statute says anyway. It's just that now we're gonna put in here what we've actually been doing, taking a lot of stuff from the Board of Safety and just bringing it over here that was already in our rules and regs and procedures.
That's gonna be the stuff before.
Before the commission was formed,
Right.
the Board of Safety.
Safety,
Board of Public Safety, yeah.
And Chief Deputy Max Litwin has identified another municipality who has a fire merit system already in place that has a set of rules and procedures that they've already adopted that runs very similarly to how the Bloomington Fire Department already operates. So we are shamefully pilfering some of their language and plugging it in as well, because it's just already written
If somebody's
in a
already
way
done it well,
that
why-
works, yeah.
Why not use theirs?
So we're putting a plug out for Greenwood and thank them on the record for their rules and procedures, because we are shamefully borrowing from them as well. So it's gonna be an amalgamation of those three things: the existence of what we already have in place, what Greenwood has written, and what I put into play as what I see as the outline of what the statute requires. So through all of that, I think by next month, we should have a complete document that meets what the state requires and accomplishes what the city of Bloomington is already doing. So that's the goal anyway. Anything to add on the fire side?
Otherwise, we'll have it done by the time the next meeting.
Yes. And we really are, this is all, we're building this from the ground, from scratch. And there are mistakes to be made, and one of them is that we did not, on the agenda, ask for the board to be able to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting. So that will be on the next agenda in May, and we will approve the first meeting's minutes and this meeting's minutes as well. So what we'll do is send out an opportunity. You'll get to see the minutes. You'll be able to review them before the meeting in a packet that we share with all of the members of the commission. And when you come in, then you'll be in a position to be prepared to approve those minutes, so that we do that on the record as well. Okay? Nicole? You got any questions, Nicole?
I do not. As you say, it's the first draft. That's the draft that I had. I did have a chance to read it, and I do not have any questions. And I would not say pilfering. I would just say we're having a free exchange of ideas.
Well, yes, far more eloquently put. There is a new draft of this set of rules and procedures that I have in a Google document that we are collaborating between the union and the fire department and the legal department. As that is changing, I'm going to be sharing it with you. I didn't share it today because I just thought it was going to be information overload. So I'm glad that you've all had a chance to review this framework. You're going to get a new document in email form very shortly, probably tomorrow. It shows you the updated version that you can go through and see, oh God, we really did make a lot of changes. I'm waiting for the fire department to jump on and look at those changes and add to it, answer comments, add comments of their own, and over the course of the next several weeks, I feel like we're going to get this put into a place where we're ready for you to review and approve.
You'll probably see something after the 7th of May. We have a time set aside with Jordan and the union leadership to sit down and kind of make sure we're all on the same page with this before we, as we kind of get going there. So.
Great. So a question I have, I suppose this can still be new business and it's not on the agenda, but it is something that I would like to know. We sort of talked about it in the first meeting, as I'm recalling, but are we still of a mind to keep our meetings as scheduled and cancel them as we need to? Is that still what we think the best practice should be?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Then we'll keep it as that for now. I suspect that there may not, hopefully there won't be a lot of discipline, but we will see promotions from time to time. We may have months go by where we don't meet at all.
Probably our first order of business will be a hiring list that we're working on through right now, so at some point here, once
To approve a hiring
this approve a hiring
Yeah.
list, probably maybe later this summer.
Does this commission wish to have an integral part in the review and interview or any procedure along the way for the hiring process, or do you wish to simply ratify the decisions of the department? You don't need to make that decision now, but I might like to get some feedback from you, because we are putting together the procedures for hiring, and if this board wishes to be a step in that process, it would be nice to know. So this might be something for us to have a discussion on right now, is whether we feel like this commission ought to be a step in that process. I'll give you a little history. The Board of Public Safety, at least in the very short 11 years that I've been representing them, went through a process. When I first started representing them, they had an integral part in the hiring of members of the fire department. They were a step in the interview process. I don't know if any of you went through it. Did you interview with the Board of Public Safety? All right, and you would remember that. Certainly Chief would.
Yeah.
But over the course of time, as the membership changed in the Board of Public Safety, they started to wonder why on earth they're even involved in that, because they don't know anything about what it takes to run a department, be a good firefighter. And so they pulled themselves out of that process and stopped being an interviewing party, stopped reviewing the applicants, their applications, and ended up just being at the very back end, reviewing the recommendations of the department and simply ratifying those recommendations. So the department brings in a list, says these are the people that we want to be on our hiring list. That gets ratified by the board, and then the department would come in and say, we're ready to hire 6 new people, and these are the people we want to hire, and that would get ratified, right? And so just a bunch of ratification versus being integrally involved.
You know, my first impression on that is, it's still a good idea for us to meet them.
Okay.
Because they need to be able to, you know, if we're gonna be down the road figuring out discipline and promotion, they need to know that there's 4 or 5 citizens that are really interested in this, and they can put names with faces and realize that we're connected to all this. And, you know, I completely, you guys are never gonna pick people that you don't wanna live with, cause you live with them. So I got that part. And I feel great about that, but it's like, I don't wanna make it sound like it's just perfunctory or ceremonial, but it's just a way to develop a relationship.
I agree.
That's kind of the way I look at it, I guess. It's a way for us as general citizens to be a part of the process.
When you say you'd like to meet them, would it be prior to the decision to hire, or would you want them to come into a formal public meeting and these are the new candidates that are being hired, and you meet them in a meeting like that have already been approved?
I think you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to meet them individually in a meeting setting like this, and be able to ask a few questions. And we're really ratifying things, and the way I see it, it's more of a ratification, but it's also a way to get to know them a little bit.
Questions vetted by the Human Resources Department, right? That are the same ones that are asked of each of the candidates, so that
Obviously,
there's
those
no.
limitations, we can't
Yeah.
get into things that are prohibited, but because it's a hiring function, so we have to be careful about that. But you know, hometown, schools, things like that, way to get to know folks.
We've done it in the past. It's not a, it's not a scary beast
No,
unless we
no,
do
no,
it
no.
without
To
any
my knowledge,
regulation.
We've done it all the way up until just recently.
Yeah, like, I feel like it was about 6 years ago when we
Stop doing that.
7 years, 31 of them was done that way.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way. That way the board had a chance to, like you said, meet them, see who they were. I don't know if anything ever changed other than the board just said, outstanding, we got to meet the 15 people you put on the list and we're happy with them and.
In the
we move
order,
forward.
yeah. For my list, we met the board and the board decided the ranking. They were given 15 and we said there's 9, so you ranked them. But that was 20-some years ago. Did you get interviewed?
The board
Yeah, I
actually,
forgot about that.
actually,
Did the ranking?
That's when I heard 20-something years ago.
I can tell you when I was
That
there the
predates
first
me.
time they did.
yeah, that
We would take-
predates
We would bring
me.
them a list of, I don't know, let's just say 12, and they would be like, okay, you brought us 12 and here's how we want you to hire them, 1 to 12.
After meeting them and
Yeah.
speaking with
And
them.
not always was it the way we wanted to be hired, but we also realized we wouldn't bring you 12 that we wouldn't take in any order, but, so
Yeah.
it didn't really make any difference, but you kinda had in your mind how they would go, and the board then said, here's the list from 1 to 12, and that's the way you hire them.
I think the latest was after all that, didn't we present it in a suggested order and then they could rearrange it if they chose to,
Mhm.
or something along those lines?
So
It can be modified.
Whatever they
yeah,
choose, we would
yeah.
never bring you somebody we wouldn't,
Yeah.
we wouldn't take.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's weird that
They decide the order of you
Yeah.
after you give them
Or
the,
just give you, if there's 2 spots, we bring you the top 2.
Yeah.
And just work from there. But you,
Like there's,
we'd look at you ratifying the whole
Just
list so
good.
we could
whatever you.
go quickly,
I
I
think it'd
guess.
be interesting if we, if we decide we wanna put 12 on the list, it'd be nice if you would go sit down and visit with all 12 of them. Obviously, we'd have to have them in some form of an order, that way if we need 2, 4, whatever it is, but at least you would see, you're seeing who you're approving to be on a hiring list, that we end up hiring all 12, then you know that you saw them and you're okay with them, and if we just end up hiring 2, then, we had, you saw those 2 as well, we just didn't get to the other 10, so I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it helps. Unlike you, I think it gives I can still remember who's on the board of safety when I went through, just because of something that, I remember that's the first time I met people involved in the city governance was when I went in front of the board of safety and they asked you those few questions before you got hired, so I don't think it's a bad thing. And it could be, we're not gonna bring you huge numbers, but it could be, probably an hour-long meeting to get them all through easily enough.
This would be,
After they're on the list, but before they get hired,
I would
or?
think it'd be
before they get put on the list.
Before they get put on the list.
Okay.
We would bring them a suggested
These are the
list
people
of
that we
names
want
that
to
we
be
would like to be
hiring
on the
list.
hiring list, and then they can decide whether they do get on the hiring list, or maybe there's somebody who does something that
Yeah.
would prohibit them from being on the hiring list in front of them. If that doesn't, that's the way it is, but then we could have a back and forth with, what order to get them in, so that if they want to rank them, that'd be fine, or however, because we would never bring them names that we wouldn't take, period, whether it be the 12th person or the first person.
And we could put this after their physicals and after everything that we know that they're, or do you want to do that before we
No,
pay
I
for the
think
physical?
I would think we would, well,
If we're looking at $2,500 physical per person, if we have 2 spots, if we're bringing 15.
Well, I think we do it before the physicals, because we would never send them to a physical until we were ready to hire them. So it would have to be ranked out, so it would like, hey, we need 2, we're sending you 2 for physicals. So between them getting the interview, our internal interview and the physical would be bring it to the board.
So this second interview effectively would be a conditional approval of a hire, should the vacancies need filled. That way,
Right.
we know that you're good with it, and we can just onboard them as needed. So if we had an unexpected vacancy, we've already gained your approval to pull them off the list. So we could have that step
And
down.
we-
If we bring 10, we're not gonna send all 10 for a
Yeah.
physical, we only send what we need because of the cost of the.
Right.
for a physical.
And we usually do 1 or 2 spots just in case of failures, because we've had a higher fail rate since COVID, and the people are stressed in PTSD, or they're starting out with that. That's like a do not recommend, and so if you already have some stress or coping issues, then they won't pass the MMPI up there, so, we've just had recently
Makes sense.
since, so.
we'll build it into where we think it fits, and then you just can review it. Sure, we can move it.
Nicole, you got any comments or suggestions?
I am largely in agreement with everything that everyone is saying. I certainly think it would be a great thing to be able to meet them ahead of time. The only thing that I've wondered, and maybe my mind is just spiraling off on something that's not even a legitimate thing. I noticed in the rules and procedures that they use my case to do background checks, and so do I. When people call in, I look in that to help the public when they call in about something. But I'm wondering if something happened, and I don't know what the something is, where there might be some buyer's remorse, like perhaps you used my case, which is in Indiana, but it turns out they had, something in another state or something like that, and that buyer's remorse led to litigious dealings. Is the board likely to be named as a party? Could they be named as a party? What does that mean? Or am I just looking at this in a way I shouldn't even be?
What I will say for that, in the HR hiring process, they have a third-party vendor that does the national NCIC, the sex offender list, a social security verification, work history for the past 7 years, and that is for public safety employees or candidates at HR. Before, that would be part of the procedure, I guess, before we get to the point of bringing them to the board. And we would also do police do a deep dive into social media as well. So we do all that prior, we do that before we send them to physicals.
Okay, so it's a non-issue. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's a very good question. It's a very good question because public safety does get a more thorough microscope, I'll say, from the HR and the vendor than the normal, or I should say usual, employee of the city. And rightly so.
That's all I had.
It was a good one. Thank you, Nicole. Other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
No.
Anything that we should be discussing from the fire department's position?
We'll look at this timing for this hires cycle to do the June meeting. Would that be, because we'll just have to change our schedule for the physicals and look and see about moving them to July.
And don't forget that we can call a special meeting if we need to fit into a hiring cycle, so that you don't have to wait around. If that's what you're getting at, is like, yeah, so we should have our rules adopted in May, which means that we can start to act on things like this thereafter. And if you're in need of a meeting to allow the commission to meet with the new hires, right, then we could look into finding a day that everybody could get together and have a special meeting.
Do you want to be part of a regular meeting, or would you want a special meeting?
It could be a part of a regular meeting if it fits.
Your schedule, but we could schedule, we can have off schedule meetings
Right.
if we need to. Yeah.
27th, so
Right.
I don't know if you think you'd be ready by.
Well, if we
Okay.
start the reference checks and the background checks, is we'll have to get permissions because they have to send
Okay.
permissions back that week. We'll know results from interviews then, and we start reference checks then.
So it'd be
We
tight.
could be ready, and then I'll just contact Alexis and say, how about July for physicals?
Okay.
Because if we make it work.
Cool.
We're ready for put it on the June agenda, Jasmine? candidates
So
and I'll just
we would
notify
want it to
them.
be- You'd want to have those meetings with the members in an executive session, okay? So what it would look like in June is then we would have an executive session to meet with the new hires, the candidates for new hire. And then follow it up with a regular meeting to cover any of our regular business. If we have any regular business to conduct, we may not have any. But if we have to do any voting, we would do that in a regular meeting. So if there's a list to approve, or we're gonna vote to approve to move they all did great, we're gonna recommend they all move on in the hiring process. I'm not sure what this is gonna look like yet, but, so we would have an executive session and then a quick little regular meeting afterwards to do any of our official business on the record in the public forum, okay?
And then usually when publish an agenda like that, the executive session, we'd put a reason for the executive session, right?
Exactly, and
Good.
that's to receive information about a new.
Personnel action.
Personnel, yeah, yep,
That's permissible by open door law.
that's right.
Hey, do you have a question for you? Are you going to bring the interview questions for them, or is this,
I would
or is this, you want HR?
to review and approve whatever we think we're gonna ask. And then to make sure that that is the set of questions that we ask. So it could be that if we have 4 or 5 members, then I would anticipate that there are always 5 questions to ask. That way each of the 5 members of the commission can ask a question, but those are the 5 questions that get asked. If there are only 3 members or 4 members, those 4 members would decide how to divvy up those 5 questions, all right? But that way, the same questions get asked of the same candidates, and we don't have any kind of discrepancies between how we're asking or interviewing with these people. And then I would like to be attending the executive session just to make sure we stay in that very short lane. And I will say that out of experience is why I recommend it that way, because we had a few rogue questions come up when I was first representing the Board of Public Safety that I thought, that's getting pretty close to the edge. We might not want to be asking questions like that. So we'll have HR vet them, make sure they're all legally sound, and then those will be our 5 questions. That's how I envision it, if that's okay with the commission.
So you will take care of the getting the questions, or do we need to
Well, I'm
propose
gonna
them, or
talk
do you?
to HR about that. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do that unless somebody in the fire department feels very strongly about taking that lead. I'm happy to do it.
I just submitted the questions for the interviews, so Catherine and Steve had those, so.
Well, I anticipate bugging Steve about this, saying, hey, man, we need 5 questions that the commission can ask. What do we want to do?
Chris, when you talk to them, I would think is that we'd want to stay at, the 20,000 foot level on questions.
Sure.
Because you all are doing the more specific kinds. I would want to get into that business, but it's, for us, it's a way to get to know the candidates and connect and make sure that they're on the same sheet of music all together. And so that's really the intent there. So as HR's looking at that, I'd ask them to just come up with,
5 really
general type.
background questions.
Yeah.
Where you from? Yeah, so,
HR's
well, yeah,
hypothetically
what I would expect
put the
is
questions
that way
together.
there aren't any duplicates. Maybe you guys want to hear the same thing, so I'll talk with HR, see what questions have already been asked, what questions you're anticipating to ask, and then we can try to see what other questions might be. Maybe we could steal some of your questions because they might be the ones that are perfect for the commission. That way they're hearing some things that you're hearing as well.
I'm sure you guys can provide some guidance as to what you want the questions to be like, and then they can just fine tune it to make sure it's acceptable. I would think that that'd be acceptable, yeah.
If anybody's got a great idea for a question, share it with me. I'll pass it along to HR. The way we do things in the legal department, I suspect, is the way everybody's doing it across the board now, which is that we also are given a set of questions. Now, we say we would like to know some of these things, right? So we worked with HR, but it boils down to a set of questions that we ask each candidate to be hired in the legal department. So I think that each department's operating exactly the same. So I would like that to be the same procedure that we're using in the commission as well. Cool. Well, this is a unique opportunity for me, and I'm thrilled to be able to be involved, and I will apologize for the mistakes we make, but I'm having fun trying to put this together with you all.
It's gonna be good.
It's always good to be in an inaugural kind of thing, isn't it, huh?
Yeah, it's sort of put our stamp on it.
Precedent setting.
Yeah.
Anything else for the good of the cause? I'm kind of running this thing, and I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I'll let you call for an adjournment.
I need a motion for that, right?
Yeah, just a motion, but we don't need to vote.
All right. Second?
Yep,
Jeff,
that's all we
oh,
need.
that's all we need, okay.
Just
No
somebody
second,
to say
just-
I move,
all
and you
right.
can get out of here.